same day, but I'm sure that we can make something. She has been heading the American atheist movement for 30 years, since the case of Murray versus Curlett, which came down in June of 1963, that removed Bible reading and prayer recitation from the public schools of the United States. That was the Warren Court of the time, with Chief Justice Earl Warren during the 60s. There have been many changes in our Supreme Court, and I suspect that today that decision with the court as it's currently composed could not be repeated. But I don't think that we need to be so concerned about that, because there are other cases like Roe v. Wade, for example, landmark decision on abortion, that probably could not be repeated today, but at the same time has hung tough with the court changes, as our case has. During her reign with American atheists, Madelyn Murray O'Hair has accomplished a number of unique things. She started, for example, in the 1970 an American Atheist radio series for the first time in the world that we know of, a series of radio programs emphasizing atheism. She had a run of 13 years of this program once a week on the television station that was owned by past President Lyndon Baines Johnson by the Johnson family in Austin, Texas. She initiated the current American Atheist television series, which is now in its 10th year of production, the only series of cable programs nationwide speaking particularly to atheist and separation of state and church concerns. She was the first litigant in America to litigate a separation of state and church suits as an atheist, not as a free thinker, not as a minority religious person, not as an agnostic, but as an atheist up front, saying so and putting into the paperwork of her suit that she was suing as an atheist and because she was an atheist. She saw to it that there was the founding of the American Atheist Library and Archives, knowing that the written works of those in dissent to religion had to be preserved for posterity. One of the things that religious folks have enjoyed doing throughout the history of the world is to burn books. They're champion book burners, and we wanted to make sure that the writings of atheists were preserved someplace where the religious community couldn't act out their history. She established an American Atheists headquarters, a building, successive buildings, knowing that atheists needed a kind of a Mecca, if you will. I hate to refer to a religious place, but something of the sort, or an atheist Vatican, I guess you could say, but some kind of a central place where they knew there was a headquarters for their activities in the United States. She initiated an American Atheist magazine, which was the first one ever to have American Atheist on the masthead, and not be free thinker or not be agnostic or not be humanist or any other word, but straight out, up and up atheist. She fought for tax exemptions for her organizations, long hard fights with the Internal Revenue Service, and got educational exemptions for them, got exemptions from real estate taxes in Texas for the building. She has been on more talk shows, radio and television, than anyone who ever popularized the word atheist. She has been on more of those public appearances and spoken at more colleges and universities than any other atheist in the history of this country and probably most of Europe. She tried to popularize one of the first definitions of outright atheism in the world, emphasizing again that there is no soul, there is no life after death, there is no efficacy in prayer, and she was among the first to challenge religion directly as insanity, and to come out and to directly confront it rather than to take any of the side glancing blows that most of the other organizations had. And also she has tried to foster an international outreach, as atheists have reached out through World Atheist Meets and reached out to some of the what have been predominantly atheist countries of China and the Soviet Union, and into India, Europe, and Australasia. Also, she is the only lawyer in the United States that we know of having a JD in law, an earned degree, who has been barred from the practice of law since her graduation for her entire time, had her education taken away from her, and been barred from the practice of law because she's an atheist and will not take a bar oath, so help her God. She also is the first female leader of a major atheist organization. Every other atheist and free thought group that has gone before in this country or most of the other major nations of the world have had men, and usually old men at that, and as an atheist leader, as a woman in the early days, she was not well liked by the previous atheist leaders who thought that a woman couldn't handle it, and I think she has admirably proved to them wrong throughout the years, and I'm proud to have a woman at the head, has been at the head of the American atheist movement. So with all of that said, I'd like to introduce Dr. Madelyn Murray O'Hair to you, and she has some words about atheists.
Thank you very much.